Welcome to the First and 30 podcast. This is episode 33, week one of the NFL season, and we have a new week of the NFL and also a new week of First and 30 podcast. What makes this new, Antonino? What's different about this episode in particular?
We got a little bit of new software, and if our voices didn't kill you, our faces just might.
I like that, man. Yeah. Yeah. We're on video now, everyone. So I know everybody listening right now is channeling us through Spotify, through Apple, maybe YouTube Music. But now you can see these lovely mugs on YouTube. We have a cool little setup, a cool little studio. We hope you can come join us. Visit the First and 30 studio. Let's go for it. It's our big banner up here. It looks fantastic, Antonino. I love what you're doing too with your flaming tigers in the background.
Hey, my two pet Bengal tigers. I figured I'd bring them to the show too.
That's sick. And look, even with that, we have a cool little banner welcoming the chain movement to First and 30. So I think this is just going to pique curiosity. If you're listening on Spotify, come on over, join the studio, join the First and 30 movement with us. But Antonino, week one, ton of action to delve into this week. My Cowboys looked pretty good, but on the inverse, your Bengals did not look very good. And I think we're going to get into that today.
Yeah, half the league had their hearts broken. Okay, not everyone could win on the first week, so it's just part of it.
Okay. Well, I want to get right into it. So for first down, I think we need to take a look at this New England Patriots, Cincinnati's Bengal upset of the week, because the Patriots were favored by 9 on the spread, I believe. So why don't you just talk us through what went wrong, and I'm going to tell you, what I think went wrong here.
How did I know this was going to come up? How did I know? Past 2 days have been pretty tough. Ask anyone in my circle how I've been. It's been pretty sad to go through this loss to the lowly New England Patriots, worst team in the league. Terrible line left and right, but it didn't matter. We took a fat L. And what did the New England Patriots do? They did not turn the ball over. Jacoby Brissett was that quarterback. He didn't make the big mistakes. I was hoping for Drake May, to be honest. Jacoby, he did what a team has to do to win on the road as an underdog. No mistakes. Secured the ball. And they won.
You know what else the Patriots did? They ran for 270 yards on that Cincinnati defense. What was going on there? The game plan was pretty straightforward. New England was going to, take care of the ball. They weren't going to turn it over. They were going to try to limit Cincinnati's opportunities on offense. Maybe third, control the clock. Just ground and pound. 39 runs to just 24 passes. So that seemed like a key part of their formula.
Yeah, the worst part is we had 13 missed tackles. That's a recipe for disaster. We start slow every year.
13?
13 missed tackles.
Is that a record?
It might be, actually. It led to 80 yards extra for the Patriots, which, Stevenson ran all over us, as you could see. But on the contrary, they didn't turn the ball over, but we did. And that's the problem. We had a touchdown that was dropped. We had a guy catch the ball, run to the 1 yard line, had it knocked away right before scoring. So many things. And then we had a punt return. The guy fumbled in our own territory. That's 10 points right there. So, yeah, can't turn the ball over. But we didn't look sharp. That's the worst part of it all. Burrow didn't seem like himself. And I'm not talking about from an injury perspective, okay? The throws were sharp, but we did not take the chances we're used to seeing.
So that was where I was thinking too, because the excuse last year that you made and other Bengals fans made was, Burrow didn't have a full camp. He had the heel or the finger? I forgot what the injury was, something lame, but he was injured nonetheless. So really no excuses going in this season for him to be kind of as sloppy as he was. His stat line, he was efficient, 21 of 29, but he only threw for 164 yards. So he really wasn't pushing it downfield too much. And you were talking big game going into the season about that vaunted offensive line, the big bodies, the big boys that they spent a lot of money on. to protect Burrow. Do you think it's just like stage fright for him, like shell shock, like he's still paranoid from getting hit from all those years leading up to this? What's going on with that?
No, definitely. In the pocket, it did seem like he was rushing it. Like if you watch a play develop and they're in zero coverage, that's your shot play. But you could see him kind of get a little feet happy and drop it down to the running back a little too soon. But I do admit, like you said, we got some new linemen. Trent Brown didn't really play in the preseason. He got ran over on a couple pass protections. I don't know how a dude that's 350 pounds gets pushed on his butt, but it happened. But it was a combination of both. He was a little uneasy in the pocket. The line needs the chemistry. T. Higgins didn't play. That has to
Well,
be said. That has
that's
to be
not
said.
that's not a shocker. We're used to that headline of T. Higgins being out of a game. So what's new?
And he should be out next week too against Kansas City. So that's a tough one.
But you guys did have Jamar Chase back. And I think that's an important one to kind of focus on, because Jamar Chase has been the story for the Bengals offseason. A lot of skepticism about this whole contract dispute. So he ended up getting 40 snaps, 83% of the snaps, but most of his yards came on this 128-yard play. He finished with 6 catches. So he really wasn't 6 catches for 62 yards and 28 on one play. So he really wasn't a big factor in this one.
So he got targeted 6 times. He caught all 6 targets. And there is a stat that I saw that how many feet of separation did the wide receiver have from the defender? He was number 2 in the entire NFL for separation. So he was open.
This is a Burrow problem.
That's what I'm saying. Something was off. He got a little too unsettled. He settled for less.
I know what it is, man.
Uh-oh.
When he got that haircut and dyed his hair, I think the chemicals from the bleach got to his brain.
Hey, I think I'm very superstitious. Everyone knows this by now. I was going to dye my hair blonde for good luck. And I think that's why we lost. I had to dye my hair blonde.
So are we going to call this maybe next week's episode? Since we're on video, man, now we have this YouTube channel. I think it's time that you kind of put your money where your mouth is. Maybe you have to dye the hair blonde, see if the Bengals win. Who are they playing this weekend?
Kansas City. You
need to dye the hair for that.
I need all the blonde for that one. So you just might see it next week.
Okay. So you need some luck. Okay. Anything else about this game? I mean, this was the big upset, 16-10, the final. I know you're still grieving and mourning, and I think maybe this is your chance just to bury it. Any last words to RIP the loss?
This is week 1. We start slow all the time. This is pretty much preseason week 1, regular season week 1. A lot of these players haven't played together. They're all just getting the rust off. All these teams, they're all dealing with it. The real season starts now.
Okay. Let's hope so. I'm rooting for the Bengals, man. I'm a secondary Bengals fan. Trust me.
I like it.
But Burrow wasn't the only quarterback, Antonino, that was struggling this weekend. So how about we hop into second down, and there was a QB conundrum. There are quite a few quarterbacks heading into this year that had some high expectations, high hopes, if you will, of being pretty successful, maybe superstar talents. So how about we walk through, because you and I, when we were like kind of chatting before this episode, we noticed a trend. We were like, wait a minute. There was a lot of really bad quarterback play. And I mean really bad. Not just like, oh man, he had an off day. It's like, dang, is this guy like going to be good or not? So let's kind of go through the names. What were some people, like some players that stood out to you?
I almost feel like we should cue up the circus music, the Ringling Brothers music for this one, because the quarterback play, the things I saw for Will Levis, I saw one where he like tried to flip past 20 yards away to a receiver or out of bounds. It got caught by a Bears player and ran for a pick 6. It was bad.
Ugly.
Will freaking Levis, man.
He finished with a $127. So that's on 19 of 32 passing. So 59%. That's 4 yards a pass, 4-yard average. So 1 TD to 2 picks, lost a fumble, sacked 5 times, QB rating of 52, man.
Jeez. And the Bears won without like scoring a touchdown or something. So
the defense did it all. And you know what though?
Yeah.
We're not gonna cut the Bears off the hook just yet either, even though they won this game. On the other side of the ball, you had Caleb Williams, this year's number 1 overall pick. tons of hype. And I know you love this guy too, don't you,
No,
man?
I can't. I see what you did there. I can't
No,
stand
no,
this
I
guy.
know. I'm pretty sure you're excited to see him flop because it was a flop, a monumental flop indeed. 14 of 29, so he only completed 48% of his passes. Dude, he did not break 100 yards in this game. So that's a 3.2 yard average. He turned the ball over, I think twice. He had a fumble and a pick, and he was also sacked. A subpar QB rating too, 55.7. So just an awful game by quarterbacks in this one.
And you would think, Nick, that's as bad as it gets, right? No, no, no. We got way more. Daniel Jones, you remember he signed that big fat contract?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, he's thrown more touchdowns to the opposing teams than his own team. 3 pick sixes, and he's only thrown 2 touchdowns since signing that mega deal.
Oh, right. Going back to last year. That's right, because he had a shortened season last year.
Yep.
He had the injury. He threw 2 picks this past week, 1 pick six, I believe. He was sacked 5 times, QB rating of 44.3. Abysmal. I mean, there was a lot of expectation though going into this game too. You know, the Giants used a premium draft pick to bring in Malik Neighbors. And if you watch the Hard Knocks episode for the offseason, which if you haven't, I highly recommend. It's really cool if you like getting in the weeds of that stuff. But Neighbors is kind of this last ditch effort, I think, for Daniel Jones. So it's make or break. I think the pressure's on him. He knows the pressure's on him this year. So he flopped week 1. As to be expected, maybe by some.
I mean, feeling the pressure, I think Bo Nix, rookie quarterback, Denver, felt the pressure in Seattle on the road in Seattle. He felt all the pressure.
But that's your guy. I texted you during the game too. I was like, dude, is this really the guy that you've been hyping up all offseason? And all offseason, Antonino has been hyping up Bo Nix.
He kept the game close. They're not expected to hang around in many games this year. They're only supposed to win 4 or 5 games according to Vegas. And he kept the game close. He ran for some touchdowns. He did some intangibles. And at the end of the day, it was his first start.
So you're still defending the guy. You're still on the Bo Nix train.
Absolutely. I'm still on the Bo Nix train. I think they play way better than a lot of people thought they would.
Antonino, he averaged 3.3 yards a pass in this game. He only completed 50% of his passes, 2 picks. He was sacked, a 47.5 quarterback rating. Honestly, we should have named this down quarterbacks with under a 60 quarterback rating because there's like a handful, a dozen guys that did this.
Let's put this into perspective. All right. Bo Nix, rookie contract, whatever. Sure. A guy that's getting paid way more than him, way more, Kyler Murray. You look at his stat lines like, oh, well, Antonino, he didn't have that bad of a day. The guy had 31 yards passing in the second half, and all of that was on the very last drive. So talk about people making a lot of money, Daniel Jones, Kyler Murray. And then Bo Nix, he still threw 50%. He ran for a touchdown, kept his team in the game. So the better of two evils, really, at the end of the day.
So you're taking Bo Nix over Kyler Murray if you had the choice?
I don't like Kyler Murray. We went over this one last week. Not a fan of Kyler Murray. You should have seen him running for his life in that second half. Buffalo came right back, and they really put it to him. But
it's because you don't like the short quarterbacks, and I'm going to serve this up for you because Bryce Young, another small-statured individual playing quarterback in the National Football League, he probably had the worst game amongst all of these guys that we're naming and listing. I mean, 13 of 30. Yeah. Like, I have to tell you the stats because this just puts it in perspective how awful this game was for him and how it's kind of like high school level performance. But 13 for 30, so that's 43% of his passes, 161 yards, 2 picks, sacked 4 times, a 32.8 quarterback rating.
That's
the
bad.
Guy is, I don't know. Is it too early to call him a bust? Number 1 overall pick last year. You're calling it.
No, it's done already. I hate to toot my own horn, but sometimes there's no music if you don't toot your own horn. Last week, I told you the Panthers franchise, throw it out the window, disassemble the team. They're done for.
Yeah, they got shellacked. 47 to what, 10 or 17? They scored a touchdown, I know, late in that game, but yeah, the Saints just destroyed them. But there were some vets too, right? Like there was a few more vets. Kirk Cousins, high expectations. He looked like an elderly quarterback coming off of a serious injury in this game, as to be expected. He was pretty inefficient, and that impacted all the other Falcons star positional players to some degree. So We saw that from him. Did you have any other names that you saw? Any other players where you're like, what the heck's going on with these guys?
Hey, Nick, there's not enough time in the day. Deshaun Watson in Cleveland, they were praising this dude. If you went on X, Cleveland was high on this guy. Sixth worst game ever for a quarterback with over 40 throws. Wow. And big expectations. Another guy I can think of, Anthony Richardson. He had 2 big throws. He has a cannon. He can throw really far. I get it. But he went 9 for 19, and he missed some really bad throws that could have won them that game. So yeah, it's a tough one. Tough all around for QBs in the league.
It was. So that's it for second down. I think this leads us into our half-minute halftime show, if I'm not mistaken. You want to get us kick-started?
Oh, man, I looked at the statistics this past week, and I found someone listening to our show from Hong Kong. How cool is that? So I want to take a moment and say xie to our listener from Hong Kong. That is thank you. So thank you for listening.
Look at that. You're learning some different languages now. But if you're enjoying the show, let us know. Follow, like, subscribe on all those social media platforms. That's right. You can subscribe now on YouTube since we're YouTubers, it looks like. All right, man. But that does it for the half-minute halftime show, which only means we're heading into third down. And with third down, we were kind of looking at this situation with Tyreek Hill, right? And the cop who detained him before the game. So Tyreek Hill was he was driving to the football game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was speeding, right? How fast was he going, Nancy?
There's a lot of versions to this story. I heard he was doing 110 and a 40. Someone said 103 and a 50. And then most recently, I heard he was going like 60 and a 50. So there's so many different versions of this story, but I heard he was speeding and he didn't have a seatbelt on. Those are the 2 things that I heard led to the encounter.
Okay, got it. So either way, he was breaking the law, right? And he got pulled over. I saw the video too. Cops kind of coming up. I guess he was like tapping the window. Tyreek didn't really like that when the cop was tapping on his very expensive, was it like a Lamborghini? I have no clue.
I think it was a McLaren. I want to say it was a McLaren.
Yeah, very expensive vehicle. Tyreek Hill was then jawing back at the cop saying, like, just don't touch it. Kept repeating himself too, just kept saying the same thing, obviously irritated by the whole situation. The officer then asked to see, license, registration. Tyreek Hill was still a little peeved, rolled up his window. Mr. Officer was like, heck no, roll that window down. Because, I mean, if you're a police officer and these tinted windows are getting rolled back up, you don't know what's going on in that car. So you have to kind of put yourself in the shoes of the officer. But then I think the officer did start to kind of like flex his authority a little bit too much. Like, do what I say.
I'm not going to get canceled here because I know there's very hard opinions one way or another. All I got to say is there's 2 sides to every story. There's the side that he said, the side the police said in this case, and then what actually happened. So when the footage came out, you see a lot, but you don't see the whole thing. We don't know how he was driving. We don't really see, you saw him kind of asking him to put his window down, but what happened before that? What did the cops say at the very beginning when they pulled him over from the jump? So there's a lot we might not know. What's the true story? But at the end of the day, I think both parties could have did something different. Look, me trying to be politically correct.
we're toting the middle line right here. We're playing Switzerland at the moment. Come on.
I think both parties could have acted differently, but how could the cop see that he didn't have his seatbelt on? Like, that car's low to the ground. The tint was pretty dark. How does the cop see that he didn't have his seatbelt on? I don't know. And
that's a little suspicious. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the guy was having a power trip. He had like a serious ego trip, like, get out of the car. And then like one guy like pushed him to the ground and Tyreek was like, oh, I had surgery on my knee. Take it easy. Surgery on my knee. I'm like, oh God, this is getting ugly fast. Then his teammate comes up, Calais Campbell and someone else. There's 2 other players that actually got put in cuffs on the sidewalk because they were trying to calm things down.
What?
Yeah. They were trying to calm things down. Calais Campbell, veteran. He's he's a Walter Payton Man of the Year.
But this is a 6'7", 300-pound man approaching a police officer. And I guess he cooperated with them. And he probably all right,
I'm telling you, this guy's a Walter Payton Man of the Year. Like he's a good dude, big guy. And for him to get put in cuffs, the police officers put on administrative leave, and I hope he stays there for a long time.
I did hear that Tyreek Hill's agent was beckoning and calling for this cop to be fired after this situation, which again, we'll tote the line here. You know, if if Tyreek was maybe like cooperative with the cop, maybe the cop wouldn't have done that. But then the cop, you know, maybe don't get so aggressive with the guy. You know, he's getting out of the car. He is cooperating at that point. So I think both sides were just being a little too hard headed in that entire situation.
But the best part of all of this was during the game. Tyreek plays the game like an hour later from this
Yeah,
happening. He's on the pavement.
it's wild.
He plays in this game, gets a touchdown, and his celebration, he puts his arms behind his back, and his teammate pretends to cuff him in the end zone. Hilarious.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Goated. That's amazing. So good on him. Hopefully there's progress made from the situation. Both sides learn. Let's do something, make everyone better in the future going forward.
Right. Well, there was a game that they played, right? The Jaguars and the Dolphins, they did end up playing this football game. Jacksonville blew a 17-7 halftime lead. They blew it. Yeah. I mean, they lost 20-17. There was some concern here for those Travis Etienne fantasy owners too on the Jacksonville side. He ended up splitting carries with Tank Bigsby. So something to maybe monitor. Hopefully not, because I have him on my squad, and I need a heavy workload from Travis Etienne this season.
Yeah, like, will the real Jacksonville Jaguars team please stand up? Like, Trevor Lawrence, man, you got paid, and I'm not seeing much. Like, you didn't see much out of any quarterback, to be honest. But Trevor Lawrence didn't do much. Etienne didn't do much. And they really blew this game. They got up 17-7 early. I think end of the third quarter was pretty much 17-7.
Yeah.
And then Miami kind of took it away. You were waiting for that Miami offense to explode. And then it finally came around. Waddle with the long touchdown, Tyreek with the touchdown. Like, oh, this is the Dolphins team we remember, right?
Yep. And Miami wins the game. And
yeah,
Tyreek Hill wins at the end too. You know,
that's it.
He got out and he scored an 80-yard touchdown. So good for him. But all right, man. We want to round things off on kind of a high note, right? Like, we want to throw up our Hail Mary. You know, I'm bringing it back. The Hail Mary. We're throwing it up. We have one last shot here to end the episode on a high note. And what better way to do it than how the whole week started off, right? With the Chiefs and Ravens going up against each other. And this game literally came down to a toe. It was a Hail Mary moment, but maybe not the full extent of like a 50-yard bomb. But dang, man, what a game.
I'm proud of you, Nick, that you just said we're ending the show on a high note. And that you're right. This is a high note. The Ravens lost. That's a high note.
You're bringing it back. He's back.
I was too nice week one. Screw that. I'm throwing that away. I was really cheering for the Ravens. I went to the bar with my buddy Harrison, huge Ravens fan. It was for his birthday. I was really pulling for him. I know. I was pulling for him, and I have Derrick Henry on my fantasy team. So there was other reasons. But they came up 1 inch. I was going to say short. 1 inch too long on the tight end's foot, right?
Yeah, Isaiah Likely. Lamar found him in the back of the end zone. I thought it was a touchdown when the play happened. I mean, even Harbaugh, he was calling for two. Did you signal that? So he was going for the win. He was like, you know, we're not going to play overtime here. And then, I couldn't believe it when they started pulling back the preview, just going back to him. Like, what?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that lost money on that. I know David Portnoy, I think, had like 300,000 or 30,000. I think it was 30,000 on that. On the Ravens. On the Ravens winning. So he's like freaking out, celebrating, and they're all like, wait, look at the replay. And they're like, oh. So like everyone in the room thought it was a touchdown at first. And let's not forget the play before. There was a bad throw. He had a guy in the end zone. Lamar Jackson missed him the play before. And there was some
likely again. Yeah, it was likely again he missed.
There was some confusion in the end zone. I don't know who was going for what, but
that one to Zay Flowers.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember that. Oh yeah, he did miss that pretty badly.
Yeah, so there was a lot of plays that could have been had, but they fell behind. You know, they were coming from behind pretty much the whole second half there. I feel like Derrick Henry didn't get enough rushes. That's just me. Besides
no bias there, right?
Besides the fact he's on my fantasy team. Look, come on. Let's get down to brass tacks here. Lamar Jackson, he is your quarterback, right? Question mark. He rushed for 16 carries for 122 yards.
Hey, now getting back to the fantasy thing, I think you're just a little bitter because that running back, as you like to call him, was on my squad. And he was outperforming your actual running back.
It's too much.
Loved it, man. No, that was great.
Unbalanced attack by the Ravens. I don't like it at all. I think they could have easily won that game. And I said this last week. I thought the Ravens could give them a run for their money, which they did, but they could have easily won this game. And I would love nothing more than to see the Chiefs and Mahomes and Taylor Swift crying leaving the field, which now the Bengals will have to do next week. But I digress.
And your Bengals are giving me a lot of confidence after
Yeah.
they can do the job. But with the Chiefs, man, Xavier Worthy, it was kind of his coming out party. Like, dude looked fast. Like, just he looked faster than everyone else. Lightning in a bottle, 2 touchdowns on large chunk plays, a 21-yard rushing touchdown, 35-yard receiving touchdown. But then you also have Rashee Rice. You know, people were kind of questioning if he was going to get suspended. What was the deal with that legal stuff happening? But he ends the game with over 100 yards receiving. And it just seemed like the Ravens weren't able to figure out that slant game. I mean, they did it to them. Did you see this? It happened multiple times where they lined up Bryce in the slot. He just simply runs a slant. Mahomes, I think, hit him on this play maybe 3 or 4 times in this game.
Yeah, like I have a really big bone to pick with a certain team, the Buffalo freaking Bills. Because if you guys don't know, the Buffalo Bills traded back in the NFL draft and let Kansas City draft Xavier Worthy.
That's right.
Buffalo would then pick Keon Coleman, a receiver. So you traded back 5 spots to get Keon Coleman and let your arch nemesis rival get Xavier Worthy. Like, what are we doing, folks? Thank you, Bills. Now we have to deal with this guy forever. Thanks a lot.
So do you think Worthy has the potential? I mean, he has the potential, but do you think this makes the Chiefs as lethal of an offense as when they had Tyreek Hill? Like, now they have a guy that can kind of take the top off, which defenses are now going to have to respect, because the past few seasons they've been kind of playing the Chiefs tighter, not really worried about that deep threat. But now you have that. It's probably going to open up more underneath stuff, as we saw with Rashee Rice getting a bunch of those screen looks. Yep. But do you think this is like that next evolution again? Are the Chiefs like a better team now than they were last year? And they were a Super Bowl winning team last year.
I sure hope not. But when you have speed, speed kills. And as you saw, his first touch was on a reverse, I believe it was. He got that ball. You just got to run fast. You whip around, you come around the edge, and you just hit the gap, and you run as fast as you can. Like, you can't teach speed. The boy has speed. And unfortunately for us, we now have to deal with that in the AFC. So I hope, for everyone's sake, maybe he forgets his plays or does something wrong, but it's not looking good.
Yeah. Well, man, I think that pretty much does it. You look sad. It doesn't work out. I know the Chiefs win, Ravens lose though, so that's good, and your Bengals lose, and you know you're still struggling. I told you to bury it last week.
Yeah, usually Monday at midnight I bury the previous game, but this week just flingering a little more.
That coupled with the loss in fantasy too. I know that hurts you. Sorry. All right, man. Enough with that. Let's get into the 2-minute drill. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right.
The 2-minute drill. Let's kick this thing off. The data is in. The kickoff touchbacks are down. Touchbacks on about 65% of the kicks compared to 73% last year. Let's make the game fun again.
Nice. Well, Dak Prescott signed a record $240 million deal. That's $60 million a year. Let's just hope he can win a playoff game.
Speaking of someone who got paid who's not earning that, Deshaun Watson played really bad, but he's also getting sued again. Come to find out today, there's someone coming after him for something he did in 2020, and it's not looking good.
Yep. And then Green Bay's quarterback Jordan Love injured his MCL, but he is avoiding the IR, so that's good news for Packer fans.
Another injury, Vikings Jordan Addison, receiver, is going to miss some time with an ankle injury. So set your waiver wire picks now.
There was another ex-Vikings player, that made news recently. Adrian Peterson, future Hall of Fame running back, ordered to turn over assets to pay for $12 million in debt. So there's been a few reports on things not going too financially well for Mr. AP.
Jim Harbaugh, who's got it better than us? Nobody. The Chargers coach gets his first win with the Los Angeles Chargers.
Nice. And then the Panthers Pro Bowl defensive lineman Derek Brown is now out for the season with a knee injury. He was probably their best player. So already on a bad team, not looking good.
Very suspicious. CMC was out of the game last night, but in a post-game interview, Jordan Mason said he knew on Friday that he'd be starting.
Yeah, that is a little suspicious. And then on the other running back front, Joe Mixon had 33 touches for 178 yards and a touchdown. He's currently the NFL's rushing leader after week 1. So good, are you sad to see your Bengal gone?
Good for him, man. I'm happy for him.
All right, man. Should we wrap this up? This was cool. We got to get on video and everything.
That's it already? We just got started.
I know. This went quick. This was fun, though. Yeah, if you haven't, want to check it out, go check out the video of this if you're listening on Spotify. But why don't you give us some last words, Antonino?
I'm glad we could all enjoy week 1. Some of us more than others, but
myself,
you gotta go 0-1 to finish the year 16-1. Just putting it out there. But ladies and gentlemen, until next Tuesday, we'll see you on the next one. The next one is the best one.
That's right. Well, cool, man. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the First and 30 podcast. Until next week, remember, when your number's called, no matter the odds, just go for it.
Nice.